Good morning, respected dignitaries, and giving me an opportunity to speak to such an interesting forum. I mean, it's an absolute honor and a pleasure. I think Anup has very, very clearly stated what technology is possible. One thing he forgot to mention is that, there were some questions on this, but it was done at a fraction of the cost of what it was a probable outlet in the US. So, and this was an experimental one. Number one, the home at the telemedicine care was a completely experimental one done for the first time in the country. So the expenses are more, but when we scale it up, we know that it's going to be a lot cheaper. Just to take it forward from since time immemorial, I mean, Dr. Subbarao spoke of no death in singular cellular organisms, but just to extrapolate that a little further, maybe in Sanskrit we call it the myth or the myth, but when we extrapolate it, we've spoken of Indian sages living for hundreds and thousands of years. We've spoke in the Hebrew Bible, you have Methuselah, who lived for about 960 and odd years. So it was gerontology during those days. And as we move forward, I think geriatrics is going to play a very, very important role, especially when you speak from the angle of extending lifespans. There's a very august gathering here. I have no intention of explaining what geriatrics is all about. And this was just as a thing because the presentation is going to be a little provocative, so that I just wanted to open up a little discussion on this. If you look at it as a typical explanation, maybe it's about 65 years and it's past a branch of internal medicine. So we go on and on. But where is geriatrics heading today in this world of technology? Technology has always been a controversial subject, and like aging has been, gerontology has always been a controversial subject. So I think a marriage of these two, and you're going to have a time bomb. So as we take it forward, these probably, again, all of you must be knowing what all these things are. I'm not getting into this clean drinking water, the sanitation, the more demographic shift towards a more, non-communicable diseases, the vanishing of communicable, all these things have contributed to that lifespan, what we have today. But as you move ahead, Dr. Subbarao has actually spoken about genetics and the advances, so there's no point in getting into that. But you have professors like David Sinclair, a biologist at the Harvard Medical School, just saying his only job to prevent aging. And I'm sure Dr. Subbarao must be knowing him. Tom Johnson, University of Colorado, geneticist, blatantly claims that people should be living for 350 odd years, maybe in about 150 years from now. And that's the kind of brash statements probably, or that's the kind of a balance between brash and a balance between rational statements. But you have a timeline extending from 150 years to 300 and odd years. Cynthia Satan from the UC Berkeley says that a life prolonging drug is about 5 years away. And hence, for the first time, actually there's a very methodical research going on into the subject of gerontology, not the snake oils and those kind of things, which was the science earlier. Stephen Ostad in fact, this is the, if you look at it, these are the mortality as you go by in 2040. There's a blurring of time, if you noticed. It was a little bit earlier, maybe the span was less, but as you move ahead, 2040, 2045, 2060, there's a blurring of how science and technology, these are going to intermingle and move that lifespan up a bit. These are studies which were done, and these are slides which actually show you what is possible. And what is this going to lead to? This is an advertisement put up on the billboards in the US. Right now, as you go by, if you were to drive down in one of the Santa Clara counties, this is the billboard which is actually there. And how did this come about? Stephen Ostad, he is from the University of Idaho. He actually bet US $300 that a person born in 2000 is going to live to be 150 years by 2001. In 2150, he would be alive. And he bet $300. He put that in a compounding interest. It will be $500 million approximately, and that he's written a will that it will go to their, the progeny of that particular person. But that is how provocative genetics is getting to be. Geriatrics is getting to be. So when we move ahead, this presentation is about 3 objectives, but basically to handle much more of the emerging and the future technologies and the existing. If you look at it, these are the portable, the environmental things. There is going to be, portable is more into the monitoring mobility, the physical activity and the rehab progress. So I'm sure you know heart rate and the blood pressures and the activity monitors and so on and so forth as we move by. But what is very interesting is a little bit of a cognitive kind of a thing is coming into sensors, which are like for example, MIT is experimenting on what is known as a sociometer. A sociometer, in fact, it measures how many times you've interacted with each other on geriatric people. Because it is known that more interaction actually reduces the cognitive decline. So, it measures the proximity, it measures how many times you've met, it measures on, the tone of the voice. And this is an actual technology in existence today. And it costs $20. So it's not something stupendously expensive. And all these kind of technologies, the sensors, whether you call it the portable, the environmental, these are going to get integrated into the home care. Are you going to instrument the complete environment, the house, and these kind of things? And for those people who are talking about, I will come to that question later, but for those people who are talking about, is technology so expensive that it's not going to be affordable to India? The example is a mobile phone, but I will come to that later. And meeting user monitoring technologies in geriatric care and meeting current clinical needs of that entire environment. This creates a very, very robust home monitoring system, that entire environment, whether it's portable, a home device, the monitoring technology, and all this put together. And what is the opportunity? The chronic, the post-acute care, the patient safety, and the risk factors, and the predictability. Predictability by the use of very intelligent algorithms. And these are the examples of technology which is already existing. Your Health Buddy, your Telestation from Philips, and your Health Buddy. These are technologies which are existing today. Maybe a little bit in the realm of being expensive, but these are portable devices, maybe costing $800, $1,000 and odd dollars, but they are they are inexpensive and they are getting cheaper by the day. If you go by, now if we just to look at one problem in the elderly, the falls, if it is so costly for the entire society as such, it would be deemed to be an epidemic if we allowed this to continue. So what has technology done? GE's, the quiet care system has actually completely instrumented the environment, where there are sensors, where there are accelerometers. Accelerometers actually, you can make out whether there's a tilt in the patient and he's going to fall. And you can alert the nearest person to come and do something about it. The wheelchair monitors which control the kind of speed that you can do remotely. But these are expensive technologies at the moment, but these things do exist. This is this kind of a thing, all algorithm based. These are going to be a little into the future, but they exist. Injury detection devices as we go by. They can actually, new generation of devices, and these are very, very cheap. These are mobile based applications. You just have to download an application. Discriminate between falls and seated, standing and lying position. These are smart technologies available to you today in the market. Information technology, I'm sure you've heard of this, where the computers are going to do everything as you go by. It may sound radical, gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, but for the person who's seen even a remote kind of a demonstration of what Watson of the IBM can do, this is there in the very, very near future. These are integrated telehealth solutions. I think Anup has spoken a lot about this, but if you look at this one, the one, this is something of a kind of a futuristic which can be put in assisted living, in communes of assisted living. One little pod which talks of breath analyzers, which talks of blood analyzers, which talks of CT scanners inbuilt into that one machine. I don't know what the cost is going to be, but it is going, at present it's definitely prohibitive, but as we go by, as the technology, I will show you one little slide on what technology can do. This is a graph on what is possible in technology, what is there. This is as of July 2013. If you look at the various fundamental part of it, 3D printing, or you call it artificial intelligence, or you call it, the voice recognition of the patient, or you call it location intelligence, consumer telematics, everything. It's just within the foreseeable future of the next, that graph doesn't exist for more than 10 years. And here's a graph where what is the merger of technology and how the cost, how technology is actually moving up in an exponential way. I wouldn't even, for a lack of a word, I have to use the word exponential, but it's moving so rapidly, maybe an exponential of an exponential, but that's how technology is moving forward. By 2045, they say the nanobots and all those kind of things into the bloodstream, there's actually no difference between a man and a machine. And they've actually coined a lovely word for this, which is known as singularity. Advances in telemedicine. I mean, there was some interesting questions on what is the cost of this technology going to be? If you look at it, they extrapolated negatively. For $1,000, they couldn't even get 1 kilobyte, maybe in about, which year was that? In about 1900 or so. In 2045, 10 to the power of 29 bytes of information, which is surpasses the entire human thinking capacity, will be available to you at less than $1,000. That is what technology is all about. These Honda walking assisted devices, how do they help out a geriatrician? There's no question of a muscle-based thing. There's no question of being weak and lying at home. These are assisted devices which are there. Cyberdyne, when they did this, it costed $250,000 when they did this. Today, this is available for $25,000. They have. I was talking to these guys last year's visit to the US. They said in about 3 years they should be about $2,500. By 2020, it should be $1,000. This is the cost of that robotic exoskeletons which are available to you. And the robotic. This is an experimental thing. This man was cut into half in a place in Vietnam. In China. And this is a robotic assisted device which actually makes him walk. And just imagine what all this can do for a geriatric patient. And especially when you're talking about going, staying in the assisted commune living, pods in there when you can reach out there, and then everything is available to you. I'll just quickly go by because of the lack of time now. Patient intervention technologies, vaccines for cancers and medications which are available, biosensors, organ transplants, bionic implants, all this. This is the realm of the future, microbots and nanobots. As I speak, ladies and gentlemen, this technology exists today. They was invented very recently by a company, I'm forgetting the name of this, but a microbot which was injected into the bloodstream of a human to remove some plaques, and it was successful. Today, if you were to ask me the cost of what this is possible, it is prohibitively expensive. Tomorrow, we really don't know what the cost is going to come down to, but it is there. I would have loved to show you this film, but I think I'm running out of time, so I'll give it a pass. But there was a film, this was a film by that same company on the microbots, and it's on the drug delivery system possible at location on cancers. So the patient intervention technologies, bloodless surgeries using lasers, simultaneous simulated body tissues which can be planted. Please go to TED Talks. I mean, for those people, please go to TED Talks and look at 3D printing of organs where they've actually printed a 3D kidney. A functioning kidney, a human kidney was printed. Artificial intelligence, this is not something of the realm of science fiction. This is a $20,000 robot which was approved by the FDA and it's functioning in the US hospitals. The iRobots RP Vita is the name of this thing. It helps in assisted living. And these are the kind of things, and these are going to be humongously cheaper 5 years, 10 years from today. It is not going to be, please do not, and India, for one thing, we have been, I think as far as India is concerned, how much time do we have, sir?
So 5 minutes more.
As we go by in a country like India today, I think, it is grossly, if the world were to turn it out, I think we have been a country of innovations. We have been a country where completely technology, look at the own kind of medicine delivery system. We give it at 1/10 the cost of the US. Look at telemedicine, we give it at 1/10 the cost of what the US is paying. Mobile applications, we talk about, it reaches out to 850 million people. All this requires, some of these accelerometers, all that requires is a small application which is downloaded, whether it's an Android, an iPhone, or a BlackBerry, is just a small thing. This has a GPS enabled thing. It will tell you the location. It will also alert the nearest doctor of a fall. And ladies and gentlemen, one other thing, Qualcomm has recently announced a $1 million prize for a tricorder. It already measures 3 parameters. The handheld device, which measures about 4 or 5 parameters, already in existence. And this they say that it should be available to an individual in about 4 to 5 years at a fraction of a cost, maybe $30, $35. The concerns as we go by, I know it's easy to go on speaking about technology, but it does have a little bit of a dark side. So as we go by, technology is often developed without the proper understanding of specific needs of older adults. Concerns of olders, user-friendliness, lack of human contact. My mother, 84 years old, she's fiercely independent. So she would never ever take anybody's help for anything. And does this technology intervene so that there's a lack of human contact? And is it going to be so harsh that I'm going to see my mother only on a television screen? Is that with our kind of a modern living, with our kind of these things, is it going to be inhuman? Remote contact is one of their major concerns. Will this pull me away from a doctor? Will I have never a chance to speak one-on-one to people? This is obviously that which is going to be the concern. And reduction in social caregiver contact, which I just spoke about, and stigma at the admission of dependence. I'm sure all of us have ladies and mothers and the 85, 86. Please believe me, I don't know if my mother's an example, but she will never admit to dependence on me. She still lives an independent life, and that is the kind of thing that they are looking at. Can you provide an environment for me which I'm still independent, but I'm still able to reach out to a doctor? Technology, and the last thing, technology is not an easy sell for clinicians. There will be an information upload. Because assume that there's a medicine which you have a smart pill box which is already in existence. You have a smart pill box. You obviously can't find a doctor. Each time the medicine is not taken, there's an alert which goes out to the doctor. That's going to be a massively huge information overload. So somewhere we need to come out with intelligent solutions that maybe twice or thrice, if there's a missing, that somehow something goes out and tells it. But these are kind of information. And what is the mundane, what are the simple information overload that can happen to a clinician? Is he going to be completely swamped with that kind of a knowledge? This will be a challenge as we go by. And then the licensure and regulations, concerns and financing. Is there going to be a reimbursement? How are the geriatric population, how will they afford it? Is the question. Ethics of monitoring. Is it an invasion of their privacy? Is that the fundamental? These are issues which will crop up and which need to be answered. But like any emerging technology, they will be answered, I'm sure. Never underestimate the ability of a small group of committed individuals to change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has. And I'm sure there's this lot of very, very small aging, people like Dr. Subbarao, people like David Sinclair, who says aging is a disease. David Aubrey from the Oxford University, he believes aging is a disease and it can be prevented. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you. Yeah, we can have 2 questions. Dr. Vinod Kumar, please.
I must congratulate you for a very wonderful lecture.
Thank you.
And giving. Thank you very much for a very wonderful lecture, and I think a great exposition of the present, existing and emerging technology in the field of elderly care. And if any one of us ever goes to a international geriatrics conference, there are lots of exhibition stalls which display these devices. I would only like to make 2 comments. One is that the Department of Science and Technology, Department of Science and Technology, Government of India, since 2002 has been innovating with technologies for the elderly welfare. And the emphasis is that these technologies could be elder-friendly, affordable and acceptable. They have also come out with a book. The book is easily available from the department. This book enlists a large number of devices which could be affordable and which are available in this country. Of course, we have not reached the stage to the extent that we have been shown all these technologies as they exist in the Western world. The one thing that I would like to say that the Indian mindset is still, particularly in the rural areas, it is still a mindset of fatality. It's a mindset which they think themselves that nothing can be done about the aging. They think in the villages that it is a natural process to become old, and if the quality of life declines, nothing can be done about it. They let the time pass, but they never go and access for health care for a variety of reasons. One of them is a mindset. So for technologies to be successful in our country, even if they are affordable, there is a mass awareness needs to be created about the usefulness of these technologies, so that the elderly persons and their families around, they do start to accept it. It's not a question of only affordability, it has to be accepted. I give you a very small example. It is easy for an elderly individual to wear the eyeglasses, but the elderly person feels hesitant in using the hearing aids, for example. So I think there is a acceptability factor also apart from affordability. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. And as you rightly pointed out, sir, see, we worked with Cisco as a Polo group. We worked with Cisco. We worked with the IIM, and overall, we've done this telemedicine module, which can be taken to the rural areas at a fraction of the cost. This whole thing was put together in less than 75,000 rupees, and we're running a pilot project out of this province, Tumkur. So hopefully, as we reach out to them more and more, it becomes a lot more easy, even to explain that part of it.
Thank you, Dr. Umapathy. Maybe we can continue during tea break on the discussion.
Thank you,
We
sir.
have a memento for the speaker.
An appreciation. Thank you, Dr. Rao.